Hi, and welcome to City Talk. I'm Michelle Bono, the Assistant to the City Manager for the City of Tallahassee. If you have reason to fly from the Tallahassee Regional Airport, either for business or just for pleasure, I'm sure you've seen a lot of changes over the past few years. Changes not only in the airline industry, but also changes at our airport. And the airport is operated by the City of Tallahassee and is one of our most prized services in our community. Well, on today's show, we're going to talk about changes going on. We're going to talk about new flights. We're going to talk about new offerings, improvements at the airport, and we're going to talk about the long-term vision for the Tallahassee Regional Airport. To start, let's join producer Gil Dass, but let him take us up and away to learn more about the Tallahassee Regional Airport.
The Tallahassee Regional Airport, or TLH, has a large footprint in the North Florida area. When people think of airports, they primarily think of passenger flights, and more than 700,000 passengers use TLH. However, the airport aids our local economy outside of passenger service. For instance, TLH handles 9.5 million pounds of cargo yearly. TLH also has a significant number of general aviation flights, with more than 22,000 private plane or business flights yearly. Cargo and general aviation are areas with fast growth potential for TLH, and airport management has plans to increase business in these areas while continuing efforts to attract new airlines and routes. The most exciting idea is changing the airport from a regional airport to an international one. When most people hear this, they think of overseas vacation spots. But airport management is thinking of overseas cargo and private flights from overseas. The 9.5 million pounds of cargo TLH handles would likely increase if foreign freight shippers were able to send freight directly into this region. It's a cost savings when air shippers can get their cargo closer to its destination. Also, foreign general aviation customers could fly directly to Tallahassee. To prepare for international flights, the airport staff plans to build an international arrivals facility where U.S. Customs and Border Protection officials can inspect cargo and passengers. A next step related to international flights is to develop some airport land as a foreign trade zone, which has tax benefits for foreign companies doing business at the airport. The goal is to attract new development and jobs to sites on airport property. In addition to exciting long-term plans, TLH has a number of current projects. Baggage handling is a kind of backroom operation that's necessary, but people don't generally want to watch it. So the airport will upgrade the baggage system so this area is out of sight. TLH will also add terrazzo flooring in the ticketing, baggage claim, and center concourse areas, and will soon begin design on improvements to the security checkpoint passenger screening areas to continue improving the airport for all airport users and customers. Finally, the airport will celebrate the completion of a major reconstruction project on the primary east-west runway. TLH upgraded the runway, electric line distribution, fiber optics, and navigational aids for its primary runway, which opens in March. All the different efforts underway at the airport show that they're taking the steps necessary to give customers an experience they'll like and to attract more business to our community. Once the airport gets international entry approval, TLH will be a gateway to the world.
If you are a Floridian who needs prescription medication, you can now search for the lowest prescription prices in your neighborhood at www.myfloridarx.com. The 50 most common prescription drugs can be ranked by price, zip code, or pharmacy. Armed with this information, you could save up to $50 per month or $600 per year on each of your prescriptions. This message brought to you by Seniors vs. Crime and the Office of the Florida Attorney General.
Sick? Yeah, fever, aches, pains, but I never take sick days.
We're almost at the bottom of the graph there. You know, your party's covered here. We got it covered. If you want to go.
kind of a record, really. 5 years, no sick days.
Want you to meet our new employee, John. Welcome aboard. How would I describe Ben to you? The next Black Plague. They're gonna say, how did that happen? Was it rats? No, it was Ben over at Amalgamated, responsible for the death of Europe.
Thinking about asking to get some plastic wrap put around over there or something.
Hello, Ben. This is Officer Fairchild at the fire department. We need you to evacuate as soon as possible.
Evacuation? Now?
Yes. Please.
Jeff, this is you, isn't it?
No!
Sure, I love it when my employees are dedicated and they want to come to work. But you gotta draw the line.
Hi, welcome back to City Talk. On today's show, we're talking about the Tallahassee Regional Airport. And on our first segment, we have two genuine experts on this topic. It is my pleasure to introduce our Commissioner Scott Maddox, who both as a former mayor and as a current commissioner has been very involved in aviation issues, and our Airport Director of Aviation, Chris Curry. Welcome to our show, gentlemen.
Thank you very much. Thanks for having us.
Okay, let's start with some quick background. What has happened in the last few years in terms of aviation, in terms of what's been changing? What are people seeing, not just in Tallahassee, but across the country? Commissioner.
Well, there's a lot of consolidation among the legacy carriers. So when I was mayor years ago, we got 6 carriers in the airport. We had a lot more to choose from. So we had a lot more choices. Today, there are less airlines that are servicing the public, especially the large ones, which are called legacy carriers. Tallahassee also faces the problem of being within a 4.5-hour drive from several major hub airports. So Atlanta, Tampa, Orlando, Jacksonville, and of course Panama City to the west of us, people are within a 4.5-hour drive. So the airlines are reluctant to set up shop outside of their hubs. That's sort of the challenges we're facing, but we've been successful by just working hard and pleading our case to the airlines on a case-by-case basis.
For those of us, and I know we have business travelers in Tallahassee that travel every week. And then there's people like me, I travel, maybe a couple of times a year, but I love flying out of our airport because it's so convenient. What are some of the options available to us? Where do we fly? Where do we go? Who are the carriers? Just a little background, Chris, about our services.
Yeah, currently we're serving 7 hub destinations through Delta, through the New American Airlines, and also Silver Airways. So we have direct flights to Miami, Fort Lauderdale, which starts February 12th with Silver Airways, Orlando, Tampa, Charlotte, Atlanta, and Dallas-Fort Worth. So those are the options for direct flights out of Tallahassee.
Okay. Now, I know the two of you all do a lot of work to try to bring airlines here. The recent announcement about some of these new interstate flights that will get you around the state of Florida. Tell us a little bit about what does it take? What makes an airline say, I want to fly out of Tallahassee? Because for those of us who don't know enough about it, it's like, well, why can't we have, Southwest here? What's it take to have these carriers here?
Well, Southwest has changed over the years. Sue Dick, I think, who you'll hear from shortly, she and I traveled and met with the CEO of Southwest many years ago to try to get him to Tallahassee. They are now changing from a low-cost carrier to a legacy carrier. So what we're interested in is more flights, more destinations, and lower fares. So that drives us to low-cost carriers outside the legacy carriers that we already have today. We'd like to see flights to Washington, D.C. direct. We'd like to see flights to the New York area direct. Of course, Fort Lauderdale is now being served by Silver, which we were recently able to obtain. So what it entails really is a lot of door knocking. The two of us travel around, meet with airline executives, knock on a lot of doors, and explain to them that Tallahassee is a story to tell that's better than just the numbers. We have 2 major universities here in a community college, Tallahassee Community College, Florida State University, Florida A&M University, the National High Magnetic Laboratory. You have over 400 scientists that come in and out of Tallahassee a year. You're home to the Capitol and, of course, state government. So we have a mixture of business and leisure travelers, and sometimes just the data doesn't bear that out, and it requires us telling the story.
Okay.
And I would say part of that is also developing relationships. You have to develop relationships with the carriers. You have to be dedicated as a region to the mission of obtaining air service, along with a lot of data, along with a lot of educating them to the community so that they understand that Tallahassee is more than just the home of Florida State or the capital of Florida. There's much more data that we can provide that the airlines are not privy to also include new businesses that are coming, expanded business, and other type of connectivity within this community.
Now, I know one of the big things we've been talking about recently is this designation as an international airport. And Commissioner, I've heard you say, you know, that doesn't mean we're starting direct flights to Paris. Why Tallahassee International Airport? What does that mean? Why is that important?
Well, there's two main reasons, and what I joked at the city commission meeting is people were saying to me, oh, now we're going to be international, where's my flight to Paris? Right. And you're not going to get a flight to Paris. I mean, so without going somewhere else, right?
Right. You can still get there from here.
You can still get there from here, but you're going to have to stop somewhere else.
Right.
It's twofold mainly. One is general aviation. People, companies, business companies that do business in Tallahassee and elsewhere, we want them to be able to fly on private planes from outside of the country into Tallahassee directly. South America is becoming a major trade hub. We've now normalized relations with Cuba. There's going to be all kinds of trade that will happen south of us. We want people that do business in Tallahassee and do business outside of the country to be able to fly in here and clear customs in Tallahassee. That means they refuel here. They pay landing fees, they refuel, which helps us drive down the cost of the airport, which helps us attract low-cost carriers. The second piece of that is cargo. We do 9.5 million pounds of cargo out of Tallahassee a year. That's more than anyone else in the Panhandle. With FedEx's recent expansion into FedEx Ground that's happening off of Capitol Circle East and I-10, I'm sorry, 90 East and I-10, we have the ability to increase the cargo traffic in Tallahassee. If we give whoever comes in, whether it's FedEx or other folks that are moving cargo in Tallahassee, the option to clear customs here, it's better for our airport and again drives the cost down.
And it's better, I would assume, for those businesses too. They want to be close to an airport that has that ability.
Well, that's true, and also is from a marketing perspective, we know that businesses who plan to relocate into the United States are usually on a 5, 6, 7-year plan. So for us to put the Tallahassee International Airport name out there, it lets them know that we have plans in place to prepare the infrastructure for international companies to relocate here.
Okay. I mean, I like the idea that it's this big vision for kind of where we're headed. What's it take to make that happen? I mean, for some people, it's like, oh, you just put the new name up. It's Tallahassee International Airport as opposed to regional. It's not quite that simple, I assume.
No, there's a lot of work involved with that. There's a lot of coordination with Customs and Border Protection and also with the Florida Department of Transportation and, of course, the Federal Aviation Administration. So once you change the name, then we'll go through the design process and the study to build a full federal inspection services facility at the airport. We're hoping it's something we can attach to the existing terminal rather than build a standalone facility. We must also get the governor's approval for the Tallahassee Airport to become a user fee or international port of entry. And then some other things will follow, but we expect the transition to take place over the next 3 or 4 years.
Wow. Okay, so it is a big plan. You know, Commissioner, you've worked with aviation for so long. What do you want people to know about this airport, and why is it so essential to this community and also to city government?
Well, the first thing is we've made a lot of progress. So that's the good news. You know, when I was a little boy and would fly in and out of the Tallahassee airport, it was a concrete block building that you walked out on the tarmac to a plane. And then later
there were no covered passages from the airplane to the terminal.
And then later they added an extension down in a building that resembled a Pizza Hut. We all called it the Pizza Hut, and you walk from there to the airplane. So we've got a beautiful terminal where we have a very convenient terminal. We're going to be doing improvements, I know you'll be talking about later, to the terminal. So we've made a lot of progress over the last 20, 30 years for the airport. But why we can't quit? We will never have economic development and a diversified economy in Tallahassee if we don't have good air service. So our goose that lays a golden egg for our economy has always been state government and the universities. And that's wonderful. And we should do everything we can to safeguard that portion of our economy. But we've got to grow. In a global economy where people can do business with anyone, anywhere all over the world, around the world over a telephone, a smartphone. We've got to continue to diversify our economy and bring in more small business and more large business. The only way we'll be able to do that is to have air service that corresponds and continues with the increase in technology. That's why we're not quitting, and as long as I'm here, I won't quit. And I know that Chris has got a background in aviation that keeps him striving. We're going to continue to try to get more flights and lower fares.
All right. Well, Chris, you don't get to leave. We're going to hang on to you. Commissioner, thank you for being both on this show, but also for your commitment. I remember those AirTran days when you were the one helping bring that airline here. You've always been invested in this, and we appreciate everything you do. So,
thank you so much for having me.
Thank you.
Thank you.
When we come back, we're going to learn more about what's happening at the airport. There's a lot of new improvements and things that you'll be excited about. Stay with us.
Over 550 children in Tallahassee are missing the simple joys of being a kid.
I miss having my own bed. I miss having our own house.
Join the Change for Change program by simply adding a monthly contribution to your city utility account. For the cost of just a gallon of milk, you can help all our kids enjoy the simple, extraordinary things about just being a kid.
Hi, welcome back to City Talk. On today's show, we're talking about the Tallahassee Regional Airport and changes underway that I think will benefit us all. We're delighted to welcome to this portion of our show Sue Dick, who is the President and CEO of the Greater Tallahassee Chamber of Commerce and a longtime advisory board member at the airport, and Chris Curry, welcome back, our Director of Aviation at the airport. Thank you for being on this portion of our show.
Thank you.
Now, let's talk, Chris, first a little bit about what is the Airport Advisory Board? I know Sue served for many years, but what is that group and how does it help us at the airport?
Well, the Airport Advisory Board is a group of 18 members that are appointed by the mayor. There's two permanent positions, the president and CEO of the Greater Tallahassee Chamber and the Leon County Tourism Bureau Visit Tallahassee.
Okay.
Beside those members, we have members representing the 3 universities, members representing government, and we also have members from the neighboring community. And so they're on the board to provide expertise to the airport management as we move forward with contract arrangements and the strategic planning for the airport.
Well, and I know it's important to have that input from the community. Sue, you've served on this committee for a number of years. How important is it to the chamber and to you personally to be a part of planning for the airport?
Well, I'm very pleased to be able to sit in that role, and it's over the years I found it has been very important, as Chris has said, to be able to give the support to the city staff and the airport staff. Also, Commissioner Maddox sits on that and attends the meetings regularly. So what we hope is that bringing input from the business community and bringing maybe some ideas and really supporting the efforts. Chris has done a great job, but he needs the help of the community oftentimes. And so what we want to do is bring the business community input and support and participation. And I think the model works very well, and the advisory board is a strong board, very diverse, representing different segments of our community and as the region, as Chris has said.
Well, you know, I know you represent businesses. Tell us a little bit about why do businesses care about success at the airport? I mean, we know flights, but you know, beyond that.
Well, I think Tallahassee is a dynamic business community, remember, as a region. So we also want to talk from a regional perspective. So our metropolitan statistical area, our MSA, really is Gadsden, Leon, Wakulla, and Jefferson County. And so we are stronger by being broader in our regional approach. Air service is key, moving clients and businesses in and out of the community. Not only that, the land and the availability to develop and grow, the opportunity for industry growth is key. So it's, we're the 3rd largest state in the country, a capital city. So the airport is a gateway, and it's an economic asset. And it really is a competitive advantage for us, and through the things that have been going on, we will continue to be more competitive because of the things that are in the future.
You know, Chris, I know that recently the citizens in our community voted on extending the penny sales tax. And so people who paid attention probably noticed that there's a portion of that that's set aside and related to the airport. Let's talk kind of in general terms. And I know that's into the future, but kind of what are we thinking about? Because I do think it ties into Sue's discussion about businesses and economic development. What's kind of the long-term plan for the airport, especially with the penny sales tax support?
Well, the two pieces of that for the airport are economic development pieces. The first piece, I believe, is up to $8.5 million is for us to build a international arrivals facility.
Okay.
And also,
as we were talking about on our first part of that show. Okay.
Exactly, and also the ability to staff it and train up to a period of 10 years. The other portion of that is to be used for hangar development and also to develop the infrastructure so that it makes the land that we have available on the airport more attractive for commercial development. So those were two key pieces that were just for the airport. Now there were other components of that that were key to the airport but not identified as such as the monies and funding available to expand Capitol Circle. Okay. Because that plays a big part in the development of that land piece, and it ties the airport into Interstate 10 with a seamless connection for passengers or potential air freight.
How important is that to the Chamber, Sue, in terms of the sales tax?
Very, very important. Chris has hit on two areas. The ability to create an international designation. It supports business travelers that are moving in and out through our general aviation facility. What Millionaire does at that facility and what Flightline Group is doing with regards to some of their business development. To be a capital city in Florida and not have an international designation, it's almost as if we limited ourselves, and through the vision and really the hard work to get that designation is going to be key. It also assists with companies. We talked about freight and clearance. We have manufacturers in our community and in our region that can look to the international designation to come in and to do their work and for their goods for moving and exporting out. And so it really creates a full portfolio of business development and opportunities for us.
One of the other things, I think when you look at some other airports, sometimes you'll see developments around the airport. It might be a hotel or it may be a business that uses the airport. Do we have a vision for kind of creating those kinds of opportunities as well?
Well, I think we do, but we rely on private business to dictate the best position for them. Another piece of what we did not talk about is the foreign trade zone.
Okay, what is that?
The ability to take parcels of that land and treat that land as if it was located outside the United States. What it means for businesses is that if you develop a business in a foreign trade zone, you're exempt from duties and taxes and tariffs until you have an assembled product. So essentially, like the BMW factory works in Greenville, Spartanburg, you can bring parts and supplies into that parcel and it can stay there for many years unassembled. But once it's assembled as a final product, then it's taxed. So that's a big advantage for a company looking to move from an international location into the United States.
Okay, so that goes back to that whole key about let's get more businesses to move here or expand here and have that kind of offering. That makes sense.
Yeah, I think through the Economic Development Council, working on targeted industry sector development, it's key because you have the manufacturers and you have those individuals that want to be here. Also to support the research. Innovation Park is just maybe a mile away.
Right.
And currently there are some projects on airport property that are related to the research that's being conducted. So it really builds a stronger opportunity for economic development. And I know that Kyle Touchstone with the Economic Development Council has worked hand in hand with Chris on trying to advance this as well.
Okay, now for the people that have flown in recently, they're like, there's some stuff going on at the airport, some runway work. Let's talk a little bit about what have we been doing over the last year in terms of the facility itself.
There is. We're hoping that the runway will be completed the beginning of March. That was a full rehabilitation, $25 million project.
Wow.
We're also going through the design of an inline baggage system at the airport. So we'll clear some of the congestion out of the terminal. We're going to modernize the terminal by putting in terrazzo flooring, and we're also going to embed university symbols, City of Tallahassee seal into the flooring so that we bring some identity to the terminal. So we expect the inline baggage project to start around May as well. And also prior to the completion of the runway, on February 28th, we plan to do 2 charity events. One will be a 5K run, and the second will be what I think is the first ever longest drive contest for golf on a runway.
All right.
So we're looking forward to those events.
One of the things I've loved about the airport, you all have a great history of bringing the community out to the airport, involving them in activities there, which I think is fantastic. For pilots, doesn't mean as much to me because I don't fly. What is the runway's designation? How long is it? Give us a little bit about that runway.
Well, the new runway, a rehabilitated runway, will be 8,000 feet long. And along with the rehabilitation, we were able to upgrade a lot of the navigational aids and fiber optics and such. And the other part, Michelle, that I don't think most people know is that you have a limited background in aviation.
Oh, you don't need to tell those stories. I made the mistake of telling Chris. I got my ground school license back when I used to work for Beach Aircraft. So it allows me just enough to pretend like I know what he's talking about. But I'm definitely not as skilled as Chris when it comes to the longest drive. Now tell me how that came about. Doing this, I mean, people aren't used to being on a runway. So I mean, this is a pretty special event we're planning.
Right. The 5K run was suggested by a member of the Airport Advisory Board, and the longest drive was suggested by Commissioner Ziffer, who is an avid golfer.
All right.
So we went out, we got a soft approval from the FAA that we could conduct those events, so we're aggressively pursuing
a real fun event.
Absolutely.
And for anybody who's worried, we're not going to be driving golf balls where airplanes are taking off. We're not going to be hitting them. It's going to be on the closed runway, right?
That's correct.
Now, Sue, I know that the advisory board has also been involved in giving some feedback on some improvements to the airport. Taking the baggage that's right now in the terminal and having it all be back behind the scenes. How important is that? Why does the advisory board care about those things as well?
You know, I think a lot of the feedback is accessibility and the ability to get to the airport, get on your flight and go. From a business perspective is key. I know the ability to secure grants through the staff at the city and at the airport staff to be able to do that is key. That's an enormous transition. And I think it's also a reflection on, it's a gateway into our community.
Right.
So aesthetically, you want your airport to look as though it's inviting, easy to maneuver through, and the air service on the other side, on the air side, is that you can get to where you want to go. And I think what we've heard today is there's just a comprehensive approach of trying to cover all of that for the benefit of our community.
Go ahead.
And I will add into that, we'll also have new concessions in the airport. So the thing about Tallahassee is that, you know, we may not be the largest airport, but we want to have the latest technology and all the amenities that this community deserves.
Well, and again, for people who don't fly very often, I always want to tell them you need to go out and see the changes, because the things you've done already, the things that are coming. The other thing I think that is so important is how effective you all have been at competing for these federal grants, because we could never do this work on our own. So congratulations on all the federal money that you've brought in, which were jobs in this community and building the runway and doing all these different improvements as well. So kudos to you both. We look forward to seeing more great things happening at the airport and appreciate, Sue, your long-term service on that advisory committee. Chris, you've already heard us say we're so excited to have you here and leading our airport, because we are definitely headed upwards and outwards. So thank you so much for your service.
Well, thank you.
I hope you've gotten a little bit excited about what's happening at the airport. If you want any more information, you can always go to flytallahassee.com, which is the airport's website. And most important of all, go visit the airport. Even if you're not in the position where you're going to be flying out, you can go and watch the airplanes. It's a lot of fun to take the kids, spend a little time in the overview room watching those planes take off. We've got a lot of things coming up, and we hope you'll stay involved. Thanks for watching this edition of City Talk.
Thank you.